Hello all and welcome to a new video on IGCSE physics. In this video, we'll be covering the topic of pressure and area. We will begin with concept questions. So for the first question, we are told a T-shaped girder is placed on the ground in position X. It is then turned over to position Y. What happens to the force on the ground and what happens to the pressure on the ground? So the force on the ground is due to the weight of the girder, the object, whatever it is. So by flipping the object, we do not really change its weight because the weight depends on the mass of the object and the gravity or the force of gravity exerted by the Earth. So nothing has changed in terms of force. So the force has to remain the same. However, the pressure is equal to the force over area. So the equation we will need in this topic is that pressure equals force over area. And in position Y, the area of contact with the ground is much smaller than the area of contact in position X, because in position X, the girder has a lot of its area in contact with the ground. But in position Y, the area of contact is very limited. So since the area decreases, I'm dividing by a smaller number for the same force, so I get a higher pressure. So in this case, the answer is choice C. The force remains the same and the pressure increases. So the correct answer is choice C. The diagram shows four solid pieces of the same metal. Each piece has the same thickness and stands on a bench as shown. Which piece of metal produces the greatest pressure on the bench? So again, pressure equals force over area. So to increase pressure, I need to increase the force and decrease the area. I need to minimize the area and I need to have a big force, or as big a force as possible. So obviously, we're going to focus on A and B because they are the bigger objects, so they have the bigger weights and therefore the bigger force. So which of these has a smaller contact area with the ground? I want to minimize the area. So obviously choice A has the smallest area of contact with the ground. So again, I chose A and B over C and D. So I excluded C and D. They are wrong because they have a smaller force. And then from A and B, I excluded B and I chose A because A has the smallest area. So the correct choice here is choice A. A student uses her thumb to push in a drawing pin, thumbtack, into a notice board. The pin goes into the board but does not penetrate her thumb. So I have a pin that looks like this. And a student is pushing from this end, obviously, into some sort of board. And we are asked why the pin penetrates the board but does not penetrate the skin of the student's thumb. So obviously, since it's the same force, so the same force is being exerted on her finger and on the notice board. But the only difference is the area of contact. So the area of contact here is very small. There is a sharp edge. However, the area of contact here is much bigger, which is why the pressure on the notice board is much higher than the pressure on the student's thumb. So let's see which of the options match our explanation. So is the force exerted by the pen on her thumb greater than that exerted on the notice board? This is wrong, because we said it's the same force. And then B is also wrong for the same reason. So it's either C or D. Which one has greater pressure, on her thumb or on the notice board? Obviously, the choice is choice D. The pressure of the pin on the notice board is greater than the pressure on her thumb, which is why it penetrates the board but does not penetrate the thumb. So the correct choice here is choice D. A man is in contact with the floor. In which of these situations does he produce the least pressure on the floor? So pressure equals force over area. I want to minimize the pressure. So I want to minimize the force and maximize the area. Mathematically, you want to increase the denominator and minimize the numerator to get the least value possible for pressure. Since it's the same man in contact with the floor, so the weight will not change in any of these situations. So the force is pretty much the same. So we're just now interested in maximizing the area. Which of these options gives us the greatest area? Obviously, the greatest area is when he's lying flat on his back, because then all of his body will be in contact with the ground. Hence, the correct choice here is choice B. The diagram shows the actual sizes of the heels of 4 different shoes as seen from underneath the shoe. Which heel is most likely to cause damage to wooden floors? So obviously causing damage means that I want the highest pressure heels. These are the ones most likely to cause damage. So again, this is equal to force over area. And again, seeing that it's the same situation in terms of we're not really interested in the weight of the woman wearing the heels, I'm sorry. So basically we're interested in the area. I need to minimize the area in order to maximize the pressure. So which of these 4 has the smallest area? Obviously, it is choice A. This is the one that has the smallest area. Some of you might be tempted to choose B because it has pointy edges, but these are irrelevant because we are looking at the entire heel from underneath. So this is the total area in contact with the ground. Similarly, this is the total area in contact with the ground. Same for C and same for D. So from the shaded areas, which one of these is the minimum area? Obviously, this is choice A. The diagram shows a solid block resting on a bench. The dimensions of the block are shown. On which labeled surface should the block rest to produce the smallest pressure on the bench? So P equals F over A. I want the smallest pressure. So I want the greatest area. So I want the 2 numbers that give me the greatest area. Obviously, area here is just length times width. So I want the dimension that has 80 times 40, which is obviously dimension P. Hence, P is the correct answer, or choice A is the correct answer. This is a similar question. Again, the box rests on a horizontal surface, and I want the least pressure. So the least pressure means I want the greatest area. So of these 3 numbers, which one gives me the greatest area? It is the one that has 6 times 8. So 6 times 8 is face X. Hence, X is the correct choice, or choice A, again, is the correct choice. Now we move on to questions that require some calculations. So a solid cube has sides 0.5 meters long and a mass of 120 kilograms. It stands on the ground on one face. What pressure does the cube exert on the ground? So we said that pressure equals force over area. Force here is the weight of the block. So this is basically mass times gravity. And this is equal to 120 times 10. And the area here is the area of one face of the cube, which has a side of 0.5. So this is 0.5 and this is 0.5. So we are dividing by 0.5 times 0.5. And if we do this on the calculator, we get C as the correct answer. So in this problem, a woman has a weight of 600 newtons. She stands on a horizontal floor. The area of her feet in contact with the floor is 0.05, and we are asked to find the pressure. So pressure equals force over area, which is 600 divided by 0.05, and this gives us 12,000 newtons. Newtons per meter squared, excuse me. Sorry about that. (12,000 newtons per meter squared). So which of these options corresponds to 12,000? It's 1.2 times 10 power 4. So the correct choice here is choice C. Four physics teachers investigate pressure. They wear identical clothes and lie on different beds of nails. The table gives the weight of each teacher and the total area of contact. Which teacher experiences the least pressure? Again, we have to do pressure equals force over area. And you don't really have to find the exact numbers, but let's do them anyway quickly. So 700 divided by 13, this is approximately equal to 53.8. 800 divided by 20, this is equal to 40. 900 divided by 14 gives us 64.3. And finally, 1000 divided by 21, that gives us 47.6. So the least pressure is choice B. The table gives 4 forces and the surface area on which each force acts. Which row gives the largest pressure on the surface? Again, we just divide force by area. So 10, 20, 5, and 10. So the largest pressure is choice B. The book has a mass of 400 grams. One of its surfaces measures 0.1 by 0.2 meters. The surface is in contact with the table. The gravitational field strength is 10 newtons per kilograms. What is the pressure exerted on the table due to the book? So pressure equals force over area, which is the weight again. So mass times gravity over area. So the mass here is 400 grams. So we have to convert to kilograms. So we do 400 divided by 1000 and we get 0.4. So this is 0.4. This is 10. And the area is 0.1 times 0.2, length times width. And we calculate. So the correct answer here will be 200 newtons per meter squared. Choice D. A polystyrene tube of mass 5 kilograms is placed on a horizontal surface. The pressure due to the cube is 89. What is the length of the sides of the cube? So this is a bit twisted. So pressure equals force over area. We are given that the pressure is 89 and that the force is again mg, where m is 5 and g is 10. So we are trying to solve the following equation: 89 equals 50 over A. So in order to find A, we're just going to do a bit of math. We'll take the A to the left. We get 89A equals 50. Then we divide by 89. So A equals 50 over 89. And 50 divided by 89 roughly gives us 0.5617. Then to get the length of a side, we take the square root of the area. Because the area is side times side, so s power 2 or x power 2. So x is the root of the area, and that gives us 0.75 meters. So the correct choice here is choice B. And that concludes our video on pressure and area. Thank you for watching. I hope this was useful to you.